Okay, we finished the law. You leaving?
Yeah, no, I have to get some car.
Okay, we have a minute. Okay, yesterday we finished film. Today we're starting the dinam of Mezuzah. As we mentioned a few days ago, there are certain mitzvahs you must do. For instance, putting on tefillin every day is a must. You have to wear tefillin every day. Learning Torah is a mitzvah every day. I mean, there are mitzvahs you have to do every day. There's certain mitzvahs in the Torah says you don't have to do them. If certain things, certain conditions are met, then you need to do the mitzvah. For instance, like we said about tzitzis, the Torah says if you have a four-cornered garment, then you need to wear tzitzis on the garment. If you want to eat meat, so then you have a mitzvah of shechita, of slaughtering the meat. If you don't want to eat meat, you don't have to slaughter meat. There's no mitzvah in the Torah, you have to slaughter meat and eat meat. You don't want to eat meat, you don't eat meat. Eating matzah on Pesach is not optional. You have to eat matzah on Pesach. Another mitzvah that's optional, so to speak, is the mitzvah of Mezuzah. The mitzvah of Mezuzah is if you have a house or apartment or somewhere you live, so then you need to put a mezuzah on the door. But there's no obligation to buy a house to be able to put a mezuzah on. If I want to sleep in the street, chas v'shom, but if somebody wants to sleep in the street, there's no mitzvah of buying an apartment or renting an apartment in order to be able to put up a mezuzah. So again, mezuzah is a mitzvah. If you have a house, you need to put up mezuzahs on the doors. Now normally, a mitzvah is done because God tells us to do the mitzvah. That's normally the way it is. We don't do it because of the side benefits of the mitzvah. But there are a few mitzvahs that have a side benefit, so to speak. And that is one of the uniquenesses of putting up a mezuzah on your doorposts is that mezuzah is a protection. It's a protection. It protects the Jew, not only when they're home, but even when they're not home. The mezuzah that you have on your door, if it's a kosher mezuzah, put up right, you have it on all the doors, so then the mezuzah actually protects you. And therefore, the mezuzah has the Shin Daled Yud, which is the name of Hashem Shaddai, but that's an acronym for Shemer Dalsis Yisrael, God watches the doors of the Jewish people. So the concept of mezuzah, again, we don't do it because it protects us, but the fact is that when we have a mezuzah, it also protects us, but that's not why we do the mitzvah. In fact, there's a famous story in the Gemara. The nephew of the Roman emperor, whose name was Onkelos, became a convert. He was a Roman guy, and he became the famous Onkelos, whose commentary is on the Chumash. So when his uncle heard that he became a Jew, and the Romans hated the Jews, he got a bunch of soldiers to bring him. So when they went to bring Onkelos, he started talking to them about Yiddishkeit, and he convinced them all. They also converted. So then the emperor sent a second group of people. And basically he said to them, don't talk to him. Just bring him here, don't talk to him. So they go to Onkelos' house, they're about to bring him. He's leaving the house, he puts his hand on the mezuzah and he kisses it. So the soldier said to him, what's that? They made a mistake. They said, what's that? So Onkelos told them, this is the uniqueness of Judaism. That normally when you have a palace, the king is inside the palace and the guards are outside the palace protecting the king. In Judaism, the Jew is in the palace, in the house, and God, the king, is protecting the people. And that's the concept of a mezuzah. It's God outside the door, so to speak, protecting the Jewish people. So when Onkelos told it to them, they also converted. So his uncle gave up hope and he said, okay, I'm afraid of losing too many people with this guy. So he said, okay, let him stay where he is. So that's the mitzvah of mezuzah. In fact, in the word mezuzahs, beisachol, saftam al mezuzahis beisachah, the word mezuzahis, if you play with the letters, is two words. Zaz, maves. Death moves away. Mezuzahis, or mezuzahs, whatever, either way, is zaz maves, the death moves. So therefore, this is the concept of a mitzvah, the mitzvah of mezuzah that actually protects the person not only when it's a very cheap life insurance or insurance. homeowners insurance, life insurance. It actually protects the home and protects the person. Now, there's a very interesting question. What happens if a kid under bar mitzvah put up some mezuzah? Is that good or not? Because he's not obligated in mitzvahs. So if he puts up a mezuzah, kosher or not? So there's a whole discussion in Halacha if it's good. Some people say it's good because the mitzvah is that the house should have a mezuzah. Who cares who puts it up? The main thing is the house should have a mezuzah. Other people say no, you need to have somebody who's obligated in the mitzvah, like an adult, over bar and bas mitzvah, to be able to put up a mezuzah. And by the way, men are obligated in mezuzah, women are obligated in mezuzah. If a woman lives in a house alone, she has to put up a mezuzah. Why? It's a positive mitzvah, not connected to time. Women are not obligated in positive mitzvahs connected to time. But mitzvahs, positive mitzvahs not connected to time, women are obligated in. Mezuzah is nothing to do with time. You have a house, you have to put up a mezuzah, that's it. Okay, now, the mezuzah has to be on the right side going into the room. By the way, it's another misconception a lot of people have. Mezuzah is not only for the front door. Every room in the house needs a mezuzah. If the room is 6 feet by 6 feet, and it has a doorway or a door, it needs to have a mezuzah. Now, the difference is, if you have a room that doesn't have a door, it's just a doorway, so then you have to put up a mezuzah without a bracha. The only time you put up a mezuzah with a bracha is when there's an actual door. In other words, the room is 6 by 6 feet. The room is at least 37, 38 inches high. And there's a door. So sometimes you'd be surprised, you can have a tree house. Kid can build a tree house that they in a tree, and it could be 6 feet by 6 feet, and it could be 37 inches, which is 3.5 feet, 3 feet high, and it could have a door, and they're obligated to put up a mezuzah with a bracha, because it fits the dimensions of the bracha. Now, mezuzah goes on the right side of entering into the room. And by the way, if you put it on the other side, it's not kosher. You have to take off the mezuzah and re-put it with a new bracha, because you didn't do the mitzvah correctly. The mezuzah has to be on the right side of the door, not on the left side. Now, there's no what?
Going in.
Right side going in. And well, this is what we're going to discuss about. I don't know how much we'll get to today, but there's no difference if a person's left-handed or right-handed or left-footed or right-footed. It doesn't matter. The mezuzah goes on the right side of entering the room. Now, what is the definition of the right side of a room? You can have two entrances into a room. How do you know what? And you have dining room to living room or living room to dining room. How do you put the mezuzah? From the dining room to the living room or the living room to the dining room or the kitchen? I'm like, which way do you know? So according to our custom, it's very simple. If there's a door and the door opens in or out, if the door opens into the room, that's the way you put the mezuzah. You face the way the door opens, and you put it on the right side. The door opens out, you put it on the left side. If there's windows to get in, or whatever, we're going to get into all those dinim eventually. But otherwise, the din is like this. If you have a more important room and a less important room, then you put it from the less important room to the more important room. Sometimes it depends on the traffic of the house. When you walk into the house, let's say you walk into the house, and then you have a living room, and then you have a dining room. So what's the normal traffic of the room? You know, both are living room, dining room are equally important. So how would you put the mezuzah? Sometimes you go by the traffic of the house. In other words, you come into the house. So first you come into the living room, and then you come into the dining room. So then the mezuzah is going to go from the living room to the dining room. But sometimes you can have that's why Bechlau, when somebody moves into a house, they should have a rabbi that knows the laws of mezuzah come to the house and make sure the mezuzahs are upright. Because not only is it important to have a kosher mezuzah, can have a kosher mezuzah. If it's not put up correctly, the proper height, the proper side, and all that, it's like you didn't have a mezuzah. What?
But the back door, the yard, you putting it coming in or going out?
It depends. According to our custom, it depends which way the door opens.
It's open
The only difference is the front door of the house. No matter which way the door opens, in or out,
also on the right.
then you go on the right side going into the house. But everything else, you go by the way the door opens. So if a door, let's say you have from the kitchen or whatever, you go out to the backyard, and the door opens out to the backyard, according to our custom, we put it on the right side going out. If the door would open into the house, then we would put it on the right side coming into the house.
Is that Chabad custom or is that the
Sometimes everybody does it, Chabad always does it. Because according to our custom, it doesn't matter primary, secondary. If the door opens in, it goes in. If the door opens out, it goes out.
If it's a sliding door?
Sliding door, then basically you go again by the prominence, importance of how it's going to go. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you have a balcony on the second floor. Yeah, you have a balcony on the second floor.
I do it. I do it.
And there's a sliding door. And the balcony is 6 feet by 6 feet. Correct? Now, do you have a sliding door? So where are you going to put the mezuzah? You can't, it doesn't sound right to put the mezuzah going into the house, because how are you supposed to get into the house? So, what's the normal traffic then? You're going from the house onto the balcony. So then you would put it on the right side going out to the balcony. So a lot depends. There's a number of issues. Primary, secondary. I'll give you an example of that. A kitchen and dining room. Let's see, there's no doors, okay? What's more important, the kitchen or the dining room? Which room is more important? So halachically, the dining room is more important than the kitchen. Why? In the kitchen you make the food to be eaten in the dining room. So what's more important? The kitchen is preparing the food, and dining room is the goal to eat the food. So then, when you have kitchen, dining room, unless if there's other factors involved, you would put from the kitchen into the dining room, because kitchen is secondary, and the dining room is primary. Okay.